I'm David Flint, and I'm delighted to be involved in a new show, Save the Nation, streamed on Fridays at 9 p.m. Now, it's often said by those who decide to go into public life that they do it to make a difference. My guest today is someone who's made an extraordinary difference, a really extraordinary difference in the history of the world. He did what those who wanted Britain out of the common market, out of the European thought, was completely impossible. Without him, no doubt, there would have been no Brexit. Without him, Britain would not have escaped from the clutches of the common market. I'm speaking, of course, of Nigel Farage. Now, the most difficult question to answer during the Australian Republican referendum wasn't constitutional. It was those with a sense of hurt whose forebears had fought and sometimes died on the side of Britain in the two world wars. And when they arrived at Heathrow, they were treated as foreigners, and they saw the citizens of a former enemy being whisked through as though they were citizens. I must thank Nigel, you very much, because that will not be an embarrassment that we will have to face if there is, in fact, a second referendum. My first question, Nigel, is that was joining and staying in the EU something which the elites craved and not the ordinary people of Britain? And did the elites make a mistake when they thought that by joining, the French and the Germans would let them into the cockpit of Europe and they'd be able to share the leadership of the European Union? Nigel.
Well, one of my most formative experiences in this was going to the Western Front in about 1987 on a tourist coach, 45 of us, a 93-year-old Canadian veteran on board. We got back to Dover. We had to debus to go through passport control. And we went through a channel which said EC, European Community, Nationals. And he, with his medals and beret, went through with the rest of the world and had to queue for ages. And I thought then, what on earth are we doing to our real friends in the world? The truth is, the project was missold to us, willfully, deliberately missold to us from the very start. We were told it was a common market. It was about post-war reconciliation, and given horrific damage in Europe, 2 wars in a space of 30 years, that of course was of itself an admirable thing to want to do. It was about removing tariffs. It was about ease of travel. It was going to be good for British business. And anyone, there were one or two. There was Tony Benn on the left, Enoch Powell on the right, who said, oh, no. This will become a full political union, ultimately. They were written off as scaremongers, lunatics, extremists. And so we quite willingly, in that referendum, said, yes, this is the modern world. This is where we have to be. Had the people been told that ultimately it was about having a European army, a European police force, a single European currency, a single form of European government that the British voters couldn't vote for and couldn't remove, that actually we'd become reduced to being a satellite state. Had any of that been presented to the British people, they would have rejected it. And yes, the French and Germans have dominated this right from day one. But, you know, even in those countries now, there are big questions being asked. I mean, either you believe in the nation state as a building block or you don't. And the globalists, and by that I mean big multinational businesses, big banks, and too many in politics, they think they can build systems of government that are superior to that can be decided by poor, ordinary folk. It was a huge historic error. It did away with any concept of British exceptionalism. I mean, if you think about the history of the UK, we've always fought against any attempt to dominate and tyrannize Europe. And yet here we were willingly going along with it. The trouble was, once we were in, the money involved was, I mean, it's unbelievable for people in journalism, for people in politics, for people in some businesses. You know, this was the great gravy train. And when I first went to Brussels in 1999, they'd never heard a voice of opposition there because everybody was really, really happy. 10,000 people working for the European Commission, 10,000 bureaucrats earning more than the British Prime Minister. No wonder they were all so smug and self-satisfied.
I think there was a time, Nigel, in the British Empire when the whole empire was run by about 10,000 people. At least the Indian part of the empire was run by 10,000 people. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, until next time, I'm Professor David Flint, and I look forward to your company on Fridays at 9 p.m. on ADH TV.